My name's Andy. I'm a normal guy, and most likely if you're watching this video, you're a pretty normal person as well. I'm 5'10", a pretty average height. I drive a very normal car, drive a Toyota Camry, and I make less than $40,000 per year, and I think that's okay. When you watch YouTube videos talking about how to build wealth for the future, one of the first things that people talk about is just go make more money. And while that's a viable option for a lot of people, I'm in a rare spot where I don't make that much money, but I love what I do. I feel very fulfilled with it. I love the people I work with. I work in wetland rehabilitation. I get to go to these areas that are underappreciated. They're covered in invasive species, and I go in, take them out, and plant native species, and I love my job. And so instead of sitting here, I could find another job that pays more money, but I love what I do, and I'm going to make it work. I make less than $40,000 a year, and I'm here to show you that you can invest into your future, be successful, and retire comfortably while not making that much money. And I'm going to outline how I plan to do that. In this video, I'm going to talk about how I'm building a dividend investing portfolio that's going to not only outperform the stock market for the next 10, 15, 25 years, it's also going to allow me to retire with around $1 million, and that's not including my retirement accounts. This is something that I think is very achievable for most people, and I'm going to show exactly how I'm going to do it. This video is going to be broken down into 5 main parts. The first thing is why dividends and why am I doing this? Part 2, I'm going to talk about what accounts I use, specifically what I look for and why I picked them. Number 3, we're going to take a look at my budget to show that it's not smoke and mirrors. This is how much money I make, this is where I'm spending it, and this is how much money that I'm putting into my investments every month. Number 4, I'm going to talk about my criteria that I look at for putting stocks into this portfolio, because when you look at stocks, there's a lot of different options depending on what you're looking for. And I have a pretty specific criteria that I'm looking for. I have it narrowed down to around 10 stocks, and that could change in the future, but this is my first kind of part 1 of my portfolio. And then in part 5, I'm going to show exactly how much money I have in said portfolio and exactly where it's going and the reasoning behind all of these different stocks. This is not financial advice. This is just the plan that I have set for myself to build wealth using a dividend investing account. So the first thing that I want to say is that if you're keeping your money in a savings account, you are doing yourself a disservice. People keep talking about hyperinflation, and we're getting to the point now where inflation is sitting around 7%, meaning that your buying power with the dollar is going down 7% every year. And if you're keeping your money in a savings account, you are decreasing your buying power. What this means is you are losing value by keeping your money in the savings account. Interest rates are historically low. That's great for if you're buying things, but if you have money set on the side, you are losing value. You're probably getting less than 1% APY. And so when inflation is 7%, it's losing value. Right now, the only place that you can build wealth is using the stock market. And I know a lot of people don't like to hear that. Right now, I have in my safety net, which I think is critical for everyone to do. If you don't have a safety net set up, you need to do that first to kind of protect yourself as the inevitable problems in life show up, to protect yourself. So right now I keep 2 to 3 months of a safety net sitting in my checking account, which allows me to pay for any medical bills. Maybe I get in a car accident, I have some sort of problem that I need fixed. I can use that money that I have set aside, and the rest of it that would be kept in a savings account is going into this account. So one of the best things about investing in the stock market is that stocks are liquid, meaning that if you have some sort of crisis that inevitably pops up during your lifetime, you can cash out your portfolio and use it to pay what you need it for. And so if you don't have that emergency, it's just going to sit there and continue to grow. And so instead of having a savings account, I'm using this investing account as my savings account. So number 1, let's talk about why dividends. I've made the switch in the past year and a half from growth stocks to mainly dividend stocks. I think this is kind of the maturing process of looking at the stock market. When you show up on the stock market, subreddits, YouTube, you see these stocks that are going to 3x, allegedly from what these YouTubers are telling you, in the next year. And it seems like a great idea. When things are going well, like in the past year and a half with growth stocks, you see a lot of success. Things are going great. In the past 6 months or so, growth stocks have taken a huge hit, and you see a lot of the risk associated with that. When I'm trying to use this as my savings account, I want lower volatility and lower risk. And so dividends are a great way to not only bring in reliable income, as dividends are paid out either quarterly or monthly. It brings additional money into my account that I am going to be used to reinvest back into those stocks. And so dividends lower your volatility, and these are stocks that are still outperforming the overall stock market. I'm not trying to pick dividend stocks like they're going to underperform. I'm picking ones that in the past 10 or 15 years have outperformed the S&P 500. So I'm going to be using these dividend stocks to build wealth going forward and lower my overall volatility and risk associated with investing in growth stocks. Part 2, let's talk about what accounts I use and why. For people that have been on this channel for a bit, I have always used TD Ameritrade. I've always thought that they were one of the best options out there, but I've kind of opened my eyes and seen some of the flaws associated with TD Ameritrade. For one, their app is horrible. It is not usable for any of the younger generation, let alone the people that know how to work an investing account. It is so horrible. I've made the switch to Charles Schwab, which they're owned by the same people. But one of the reasons why I really like Charles Schwab is, one, their app is incredible. It's super easy to use. Their interface shows all the information that you could possibly need and gives you realistic expectations for your dividend income for the next 6 months, 9 months, full year. And the fact that they have fractional shares and dividend reinvesting, that is something that TD Ameritrade didn't have. So fractional shares means that instead of having to wait, say you wanted to buy one share of Amazon, you'd have to wait until you had thousands of dollars to be able to buy said share on TD Ameritrade. Charles Schwab, you want to go in there, you want to buy $50 worth of Amazon share. They'll show exactly what percent or what fraction of a share you'll get, and you can start investing in that right away. For someone like myself that's not making a lot of money, I'm going to be consistently adding weekly. I don't want to have to wait until I've reached these certain threshold to be able to buy stocks. And so that fractional shares and then being able to automatically reinvest those dividends, because this is going to be a dividend account, super attractive for me. Also, I got their credit card that gives me 1.5% cash back. And also has a sign-up bonus that if I spend $1,000 in the first 3 months, I get a $200 credit that will be going towards that account. I do have another credit card that gives me 3% on online shopping, 2% on groceries, and 1% on everything else. So after I hit that $1,000 spending in the first 3 months, I'll only be using this for the categories that don't get me the 3 or 2%. So let's talk about number 3. Let's talk about the budget, because the main points when it comes to investing is how much money are you making? How much money are you spending? My job brings in approximately $2,200 per month after taxes. Not a lot of money, but it gets me by. The common idea that you hear when it comes towards budgeting is that you don't want your rent or your housing to be more than 30% of your income. If you've looked around, housing prices and rent continues to skyrocket, and it's really difficult to find that. I'm paying around, I think it's like 42% of my income. I pay $920 a month for rent and around $100 in utilities. I live a pretty simple life. I don't have very expensive hobbies. I like to do things outside that are pretty cheap. I enjoy myself, but I don't spend on things that I don't care about. And so my job pays for my very basic health care. I spend around $250 a month for groceries, $200 in gas, and approximately have around $700 left in my budget by the end of the month. This gets put into stuff like, my cell phone bill, if I want to buy a video game. But what I'm trying to show is that YouTube channels, specifically when they're talking about trying to build wealth and save, they're going to say all of that money should be going towards investing. That's great on paper, but you want to be able to enjoy your life. So the way I have it set up right now, it may change in the future, is that I'm putting $50 per week into investing. This gives me a total of $200 per month. That could go up if I start making more money, or if I feel like I have too much money left over. Then I take whatever money I make per month on YouTube. Past couple months, it's been $60 to $100. And then $50 or so from doing academic surveys. Just to make it a nice number, we'll put that as $300 per month going into investments. I think this is a very reasonable number for a lot of people to hit. It is not a crazy amount of money. It is for a decent amount of people, but based off of the budget that I have, it is doable for what I have. I'm making under $40,000 a year, but this is still going to allow me to build a lot of wealth going forward. If I'm trying to get around 8 to 10% returns, by the time I retire, I just turned 25, so that gives me 40 years, I'll retire with around $1 million in this account, and that is not including my retirement account. So puts you in a great spot, even with as little as $300 per month. Number 4, let's talk about my criteria for stocks. The main thing I want is low volatility. If something bad is going to happen with a stock, maybe it's an earnings report, maybe it's the Federal Reserve comes out, I want to be as safe as possible. So we're looking for stocks that have low beta. We don't want to have some crazy event destroy our chances of living a successful and good life into the future. So we want reliable and kind of stable stocks that are going to outperform the stock market. It seems too good to be true, but when you look at dividend stocks like something like a Pepsi, like a NextEra Energy, these are stocks that pay a very nice dividend, have been around for a long time, and have outperformed the stock market by a pretty significant basis over the past 20 years. And so I'm looking for stocks that are going to have a decent dividend. I do have a couple stocks in my portfolio right now that don't have a solid dividend, but these are growth stocks that you could pretty much call the most stable growth stocks in the world. I'll just spoil it, it's Apple and Microsoft. But for the most part, I want to have stocks that are relatively stable, pay a decent dividend, and I want to be able to understand their business to an extent that I could explain it to someone. The main reason behind this is if the stock market falls, if you understand how the business works, you're significantly less likely to sell your stocks at a loss. And that's the thing that we want to avoid at all costs, panic selling. We're trying to keep our money in here as long as possible, let it grow and compound. Taking it out too early is a great way to ruin your chances. Number 5, let's talk about what's in the portfolio. I'm just going to show you the dollar amount. Currently, it's $1,429.77. My total gains, I've lost $1.91, but based off of how the stock market's been recently, I think that's pretty good. The way that I have it right now is every week I'm putting in $50. $50 gets pretty much evenly broken up between 5 to 6 stocks on any given week. The stocks I have on my list right now, I have Abbvie, Apple, Blackrock, Brookfield Renewable, Johnson & Johnson, Microsoft, NextEra, Nike, PepsiCo, Realty Income, and then I have 2 ETFs, QYLD, which I'll explain in a second, and then QQQ. And so the way that I break this up is I have mainly dividend stocks in here. The ones in here are the ones that have even numbers of shares. Brookfield, Renewable, and Microsoft were transfers over from my TD Ameritrade account, and so was QQQ. QQQ is a ETF that follows the NASDAQ. QYLD I want to talk about because there are some people that have some mixed feelings on it. The idea behind it is it's an ETF that sells covered calls on QQQ. And so this brings in reliable income. This is why the dividend yield for QYLD is around 10% at this point. You're not going to find a lot of stocks that are going to give you that much of a dividend. It is risky. This is, with covered calls, you are limiting your upside potential. The benefit is that it's going to be paying out a hefty dividend that I'm going to continue to reinvest into it, and it's going to bring in much more income as a dividend than a lot of other stocks. 10% is pretty unstable for most companies. When I look at these stocks, I have Abbvie, Apple. Apple is going to be the reliable growth, same with Microsoft. Microsoft is currently 44% of my portfolio. That's going to shrink in the upcoming months. I'm not going to be buying any Microsoft for a long time just because it is such a large proportion of my overall portfolio. But when I look at this account, this is going to continue to add. One of my problems in the past is I buy in and I forget to continually add. And buying fractional shares is how I'm going to stop that problem in the future. When we continue looking at my portfolio, this is why I really like Charles Schwab, because it gives you graphics like this. This is my estimated investment income for 2022 based off of what I currently own. I'm expected to bring in $19.79 based off of everything that we know about these dividend stocks. We have it broken down by month, the average monthly. It's not a lot of money when you look at it right now. That's okay. It's going to be reinvested back into it, and that's $20 invested into my portfolio that I wasn't going to have before. And as I continually add, this number is going to keep going up. You see, we have jumps in March, June, September, and December. These are months that the larger dividend stocks are going to be paying out their dividends. But I still am getting dividends every month from stuff like QYLD and Realty Income, which are monthly paying dividend stocks. So overall, that's what I'm kind of rocking with right now. This is my dividend portfolio that I'm going to be using to build wealth into the future. I'm trying to show that you can live a modest life, make not that much money, enjoy what you do, and retire comfortably. I'll talk about retirement accounts in the future, but for this as being my savings account, I think this is a pretty good setup, and this is the way that I'm doing it right now. I'm very curious to hear your guys' opinions on what I'm doing right now, how you would change things, maybe there's different stocks that you're doing, maybe not going with dividends. I'm very curious what your guys' plan is to build wealth into the future. This is my plan. It's going to be different for everyone. I appreciate you for watching this video. If you made it this far, I really appreciate it if you'd like and subscribe button. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.